I held on to the edge of the command console with both hands, my knuckles white, my lungs burning from smoke. Red emergency lights flashed across what was left of the deck. The hull behind me was splitting open like wet paper. Through the cracks, I could see the dark of deep space and the massive purple shape of a Valith warship moving closer. My crew was gone, all of them. The attack had come out of nothing. One moment we were on patrol near the edge of Kepler space, and the next, 3 enemy ships were tearing through our shields as if they were smoke. I am Commander Peter Shaw of the United Fleet ship Perseverance, and by every rule of war I had ever learned, I should already be dead. A piece of the ceiling fell and struck my shoulder. I grunted and forced myself up. My ears were ringing. The air was growing thin. I reached for my sidearm, but my hand shook so badly that I dropped it twice before I got a proper grip. Then the far wall of the command deck burst inward. I raised my weapon, but I was too slow. A cold, heavy beam of blue light swept over me and my arms went numb. My legs folded under me. I hit the deck hard. I could still see, still hear, still think. I simply could not move. Tall figures stepped through the smoke. They were huge, at least 8 feet each, with shining silver skin and long, graceful limbs. Their eyes glowed a soft purple. They moved without hurry, as if they had all the time in the universe. One of them leaned down and studied my face. It tilted its head to the side the way a bird might study a strange stone. Then it made a quiet sound, almost like laughter, and lifted me as if I weighed nothing. The last thing I saw before the darkness took me was the photograph I kept in my chest pocket. It had slipped out when I fell. A small square of paper showing a woman with kind eyes and dark hair, smiling at the sun. Claire. My wife, 6 years gone, and still the only thing I had worth carrying into a fight. The alien picked up the photograph with 2 long fingers. It studied the image for a long moment. Then, very carefully, it slipped the picture into a small pouch at its belt. Everything went black. When I woke again, I was not in a prison cell. I was in a room made of what looked like living coral. The walls glowed from within, soft and blue and gold. The air smelled of something like jasmine mixed with clean rain. I was lying on a bed of dark, cool silk. My uniform was gone. I wore simple gray clothes I did not remember putting on. My wounds had been treated. A thin silver band was fused to the skin of my left wrist. I tried to pull the band off. It did not move. It did not even feel warm. I swung my legs off the bed and stood up slowly. My head spun. I walked to the far wall, where a wide opening looked out over a city I could barely believe. Towers of glass and crystal rose up into a pink sky. Strange birds with long tails swooped between the buildings. Floating platforms carried crowds of tall silver figures through the air. In the distance, 3 moons hung over a calm green sea. This was a Valith world. I was deep in enemy space, and I was not in chains. A door opened behind me. I turned fast, my hands coming up. A young Valith stood in the doorway. She was shorter than the soldiers who had taken me, and her skin had a softer, almost silver-pink shine. Her eyes were large and gentle. She carried a tray of food and a cup of something steaming. She spoke, and to my shock, I understood every word. "You are awake, good. The Queen wishes to see you." Her voice came through the silver band on my wrist, a translator. I pressed my fingers to it and felt it hum. "Where am I?" asked. "You are in the palace of the 7th matriarch," she said. "You are her guest." "Guest," I repeated. I could not keep the bitter sound out of my voice. She set the tray down on a low table and stepped back. "My name is Ussel. I am to care for you. Please eat. The Queen does not like to be kept waiting." I looked at the food, fruit I did not know, bread that smelled sweet, clean water in a glass. I wanted to refuse it. I wanted to throw it at the wall, but I was thin and weak, and I would not be able to do anything at all if I starved. I ate. Then I let Ussel lead me through a hall of curved white stone, past windows that showed 1,000 strange wonders. until we reached a great pair of doors shaped like folded wings. The doors opened on their own. The throne room was enormous. The ceiling rose so high I could not see where it ended. Pillars of dark blue crystal sang softly as I walked between them, the sound rising and falling like a choir heard from far away. At the far end of the room, on a raised platform of pale gold, stood the throne. And on the throne sat the queen. She was taller than any Valeth I had seen. Her skin shone like mother of pearl. She wore long robes of something that might have been silk or might have been water. Patterns of soft blue light moved under her skin like slow rivers. Her eyes were the color of violets in moonlight. When she looked at me, I felt as if she had reached straight into my chest and taken hold of my heart. "Commander Peter Shaw," she said. Her voice was low and calm and old. "I have waited a long time to meet you." I stopped at the bottom of the steps. I did not bow. I did not kneel. I lifted my chin and met her eyes. "Why am I here?" She did not answer at once. Instead, she raised one long hand. On her palm rested the photograph of Claire. I felt my breath catch. "This," she said softly, turning the picture in the light, "is why you are here." "That is mine." My voice shook. "Give it back." "Soon, perhaps." She studied the photograph. Then she studied me. "Your ship carried the codes to 3 of your fleet bases. Your mind holds the names of your commanders, the layout of your homeworld defenses. And yet, when I look at what my soldiers found in your pocket, the only thing you chose to keep close to your heart was this paper image of a woman who, my records tell me, has been gone from your world for 6 of your years." The throne room was silent. I could hear my own heartbeat. "Explain this to me," the queen said. I set my jaw. "No." She tilted her head, just as the soldier had done when she first found me. Her mouth curved into something that might have been a smile if her kind smiled. "You refuse. I will not talk about her with you." The queen rose from her throne. She came down the steps slowly, each movement graceful and careful. She stopped one step above me so that her height did not crush me, and she looked into my eyes with a focus that felt almost painful. "Commander Shaw," she said, "you believe I want your fleet codes. You believe I want to break you for the names of your generals. You are wrong. I do not want any of those things." She held up the photograph again. "I want to know why you still carry her." I said nothing. She nodded slowly. "Very well. You will be my guest for as long as it takes. And I assure you, Commander, I have a great deal of time." She turned and walked back up the steps to her throne. Ussel touched my arm gently and led me away. That night, back in my strange room of coral and light, I sat by the window and looked up at the 3 moons. I realized then that I was not a prisoner of war. I was something far stranger. I was a puzzle, a specimen, a mystery. And the ruler of a galactic empire had decided that I, a broken man with a photograph in his pocket, was the most interesting thing she had ever found. The days that followed became a strange kind of routine. Each morning, Ussel would arrive with food and fresh clothing. Each afternoon, I would walk the gardens under guard, learning the shapes of the red grass and the twin-trunk trees. Each evening, the queen would send for me. She called our meetings conversations. I called them something closer to gentle, patient questioning that went on for hours at a time and left me more tired than any fight I had ever been in. She did not ask about weapons. She did not ask about my fleet. She asked about love. "Your people write songs," she said one night, seated across from me at a low stone table. Soft music played somewhere far away. A strange fruit glowed on a plate between us. "Millions of songs. I have had your records studied. Most of them are about the same thing. One person. One lost love. One moment of meeting. Why?" "Because that is what songs are for," I said. "That is not an answer. It is the only one I have." She leaned forward. The blue lights under her skin moved faster. "Tell me about your people, Commander, not as a soldier, as a man." I thought about staying silent. I had stayed silent for a week already, but something in her voice that night was different. She was not trying to trap me. She was trying to understand. And a small, stubborn voice in my chest told me that maybe, just maybe, the best weapon I had left was the truth. So I told her. I told her about old couples walking hand in hand in my grandfather's village. I told her about letters my great-grandfather had written to his wife during a war long ago, letters that were still kept in a box on my family mantle. I told her about wedding rings and promises, and the way people on my world sometimes stayed together for 50, 60, 70 years. She listened without moving. When I finished, she was silent for a long time. 50 of your years, she said at last, with one other person, by choice. Yes. And if one of them is lost? I paused. Some find another, some do not. Some carry the first one with them forever. Like you. I looked away, like me. She nodded slowly. Then she rose and our meeting ended. It went on like that for 2 weeks. She would ask. I would answer, a little more each time. I learned that she was old beyond anything I could measure, that she had ruled her people for nearly 1,000 years, and that in all that time no one had ever asked her how she felt about anything. I learned other things too, piece by piece. Ussel, who grew warmer with me each day, told me that the Valeth did not pair for life. Their queens took many partners across their long reigns and remembered none of them. Love, in the sense I knew it, was treated as a kind of illness. Long ago, their scientists had worked very hard to remove it from the species. They called it a defect. They called it a weakness. And do you agree? I asked her one morning, as she arranged flowers by my window. Ussel did not answer at first. She was young. Her skin had a softer glow than the others. At last she said, very quietly, sometimes I read the old poems, the ones from before the change. They say things I do not have words for. I do not know if that means I am broken or if my people are. I did not have an answer for that. One evening, the queen sent for me earlier than usual. She was waiting in a smaller room than the great throne hall. This one had a long window that looked out over the sea. The 3 moons were rising. She stood with her back to me, her long hands folded. Commander Shaw. Your Majesty. Tonight I have a question, she said, without turning, and I would ask that you answer it fully. I will try. She turned. Her violet eyes caught the moonlight. Do humans bond for life? The question hung in the air. I thought of Claire. I thought of the ring in a box on my ship that no longer existed, a ring I had not been able to put away in 6 years. I thought of my father, who had never remarried after my mother had passed, even though it had been a quiet kind of lonely for him. I thought of my grandfather, who used to whisper to my grandmother picture every night before bed. I thought of the simple, terrible truth. Some of us do, I said, and when we lose that bond we carry it, every day, for as long as we live. Carry it, she repeated, as if the words were foreign even through the translator. How? Like a weight, I said, or a light, both, I think. You keep the person inside you, their voice, their laugh, the small things. You keep them because letting them go would mean they were never real, and they were real. They were the most real thing that ever happened to you. I stopped, my throat was tight. Zeshari was silent for a long time. Then she came toward me slowly, one careful step at a time, until she was standing only a foot away. I had to tilt my head back to meet her eyes. Up close, her skin smelled of ozone and something sweet, like a flower I did not know. Commander Shaw, she said very softly, when your wife passed, did you wish to follow her? Yes. But you did not. No. Why? I swallowed, because she would not have wanted it, and because the weight of her was also, somehow, the thing holding me up. That probably does not make sense. It makes sense, she said. I simply do not understand it. She reached out then. For a moment, I thought she might touch my face. Instead, she tapped one long finger against her own chest, right over where her heart would be if her kind had one in that place. In here, she said, there is nothing like what you describe. My kind took it out. A very long time ago. We decided it was a sickness. I was told as a young queen that I was fortunate to be free of it, that humans and other such species were lower forms of life for feeling things so deeply. She looked down at me, her voice dropped. I no longer believe that. I did not know what to say. She turned away suddenly as if the moment had been too much. Her voice became cool again, formal. You may go, Commander, it is late. I left, but as I walked through the doorway I glanced back. She was standing by the window. Her shoulders were set straight, but in the polished dark floor I could see her reflection. And for the first time, the Queen of the Valeth Imperium looked afraid. That night I could not sleep. I sat by my window and stared at the three moons. I thought about what I had just seen. A ruler of countless worlds, a woman older than my country, standing in front of a human prisoner and admitting that she might have been wrong about everything her people believed. I thought about Claire. I thought about how much she had loved the stars. She had always said on summer nights that she wanted to see other worlds one day. Just imagine, Peter, she used to say, meeting people who think in colors we have never even imagined. And I would laugh and tell her she was dreaming, and she would squeeze my hand and say, dreams come true sometimes. Wait and see. Wait and see. I rubbed my eyes. The weight of her was still in my chest, heavy and warm. A soft sound at the door made me turn. Usul stepped inside, quiet as a shadow. Her eyes were wide and worried. Commander, you must listen to me. I stood up. What is it? She came close and whispered, even though we were alone, you do not know what you have done. I have done nothing. You have done more than you know, she said. You have made the Queen feel, and that is the most dangerous thing you could have done for her and for yourself. I stared at her. What are you saying? Usul took a long breath. Her hands were shaking. I am saying, she whispered, that there are others in this palace who would rather see you removed than allow such a thing to continue, and they are older and stronger than she is. I am saying, Commander Peter Shaw, that you are standing in the center of a storm, and the storm has not even begun to break. She turned to go. At the door she paused. Sleep if you can, she said. Tomorrow everything changes. Then she was gone. I sat back down by the window. The three moons had grown higher. The sea far below was black and silver. In my chest, the old weight pressed harder than ever. For 6 years, I had been a man with a photograph and a ghost. Tonight, for reasons I could not yet understand, I had become something else. I had become a crack in the walls of an empire. And empires, I knew, did not take kindly to cracks. Morning came in a soft gold light. I had barely slept. Usul brought my food as always, but she said nothing. Her eyes were red. Her hands moved too fast. She laid out my clothes, set the tray down, and was almost at the door when I finally spoke. Usul, please, tell me what is happening. She stopped. For a long moment she did not move. Then she closed the door behind her softly and came back to the middle of the room. She sat down on the low bench across from me, which she had never done before. My people are dying, Commander Shaw, she said. I blinked. What? You see the towers, the gardens, the ships in the sky. You think we are strong, and we are, but we are dying just the same. She spoke quickly now, as if she had been holding the words in for years and could not hold them anymore. Our birth numbers have fallen every year for 200 years. Our artists no longer make new things. They only copy the art of long ago. Our scholars write the same books in different words. Our music is beautiful, but it has not truly changed in 1,000 turns of the sun. We are like a great bright fire that was lit once, a long time ago, and now only glows because no one has yet come along to blow it out. Why, I asked. Because we cut out our hearts, she said, not the ones in our chests, the ones that feel. Long ago the queens decided that love was a weakness, that attachment slowed us, that a perfect empire could only stand if no one loved anyone too much, so they changed us. Over many long years they bred it out of us. And now we are what we are, cold, clean, orderly, empty. I did not know what to say. The queen, she said slowly, is not like the others. She has always been different. When she was young, she asked too many questions. The old queens warned her, but she never stopped. And when your ship was brought down and your photograph was found in your pocket, and my queen saw the face of a woman who had been gone for 6 years, still kept close to a man heart, something in her woke up. Ussel looked at me with wide eyes. Do you understand what I am telling you? I think so. She is changing, Commander, and the High Conclave knows. The High Conclave. 6 other queens. They rule the other great houses of our empire. They meet in a chamber below the palace. They have been watching you for weeks. They have been watching her, and they are afraid. Ussel stood up. She paced to the window and back. This afternoon, they will call her before them. They will demand that you be given up for study. They will want to know what is in you that has caused this change. They will take you apart to find out. A cold feeling moved down my back. Study. They will not harm you if they do not have to, she said quickly, but they will need to know how your mind works, how your feelings work. They are scientists as much as rulers. And the queen, what can she do? Ussel hesitated. She can refuse, but if she does, she places herself against them. And they are 6, she is 1. I sat down slowly on the edge of the bed. The weight in my chest had a new shape now. It was not only Claire anymore. It was something heavier, something sharper. I was not just a prisoner. I was a spark near a sea of dry grass. And the queen who had found me, who had asked me about bonding for life, had her hand over that spark, trying to keep it alive. Why are you telling me this, Ussel? She looked at the floor. Because my great-grandmother was born before the change, I have her writings. She wrote about a man she loved. She wrote about the way his laugh sounded. She wrote about holding his hand under a white tree. Ussel's voice was very quiet. I read those writings every night. I have read them since I was a child. And I have always wondered what kind of life that must have been. To feel so much. To mean so much. I will not see the one queen who might bring that back to us, torn down by 6, who would rather die slowly in their cold beauty. I stood up. What can I do? Speak to her, Ussel whispered. Today, before the conclave calls, help her be ready. She will listen to you. She listens to no one else. She left me then. I did not eat. I could not. I walked the floor of my room until my legs ached. The 3 moons had set. The pink sky had turned pale gold. Outside my window, I could hear the strange birds singing, and somewhere far below, the hum of the great city going on as if nothing was wrong. At midday, the call came. 2 guards took me through a long hall I had not walked before. The walls here were made of black stone with silver lines running through them. The air was colder. We passed under a high arch and came out in a great chamber. 6 thrones stood in a half circle. On each throne sat a queen. They were all tall, all shining, all beautiful in a way that no human could ever be. But where Zeshari light was blue and warm, these lights were different. One was pale green. One was a dark red. One was silver so cold it seemed to burn. Each queen wore robes of a different color. Each one studied me the way a person might study an insect on a dinner plate. And in the middle of them all, on a small raised step, stood Zeshari. She was not seated. She was standing like the accused in a court. Her head was high, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. One of the other queens spoke first. Her voice was dry and old. This is the creature. He has a name, Zeshari said calmly. He has a use, the Silver Queen said. That is all that matters. He is my guest. He is a specimen of a species that now threatens the order of this empire, the Red Queen said. Her voice was harder than the others. Do not pretend, 7th. We have watched you. We have listened. Every night for 17 nights you have sat with him. Every night you have grown softer. You bring a sickness into this palace. He is one man, Zeshari said. He carries a picture. He tells me old stories. You would call that a sickness. We would call it the beginning of one, the Green Queen said. Give him to us. Let us study him. Let us find what in him causes this change. And then let us put an end to the matter. Zeshari did not answer at once. I could feel all their eyes turn to me. I do not know what gave me the courage. Maybe it was the memory of Claire, telling me long ago that I was stronger than I thought. Maybe it was the sight of Ussel's sad eyes as she had spoken of her great-grandmother. Maybe it was simply the fact that I had already lost everything, and a man with nothing left to lose can sometimes say what must be said. I stepped forward. "You do not need to study me," I said. My voice was surprisingly steady. "I will tell you what is in me. I will tell you plainly. It is not a secret." The Silver Queen eyes narrowed. "Speak then." "I love a woman who has been gone for 6 years," I said. "I love her the way your great-grandmothers loved. If your records are true, I am not special. On my world there are millions like me. Some love for a season, some love for a lifetime, some love past the end of a life. None of us know which kind we will be until we find the person. And even then we do not choose. The feeling chooses us." I looked at each of them in turn. "You cut this out of yourselves. You call it a sickness, but look at your empire. Look at your art that no longer grows. Look at your children who are fewer each year. You are not stronger for what you did. You are quieter. You are colder. You are less." The Red Queen stood up. "Enough." "No," Zeshari said. She took one step closer to me. Her shoulder nearly brushed mine. "He will finish. This is my palace. Let him finish." I took a breath. What I carry in my chest is not a weakness. It is the thing that made me stay alive after she was gone, when staying alive was the hardest thing I have ever done. It is the thing that put me on that ship. It is the thing that made me walk into this room today. You are 6 queens. You rule more stars than I can count. And yet one human, broken and thin and tired, has made you nervous enough to hold a special meeting. I looked Zeshari in the eyes. That should tell you something about which of us is truly strong. Silence fell. Then Zeshari turned to the other queens. Her voice was very calm. "You will not touch him. He is under my protection. And if the conclave wishes to test that protection, the conclave may find that the 7th house is not quite so weak as you believe." She held out her hand to me. I took it. Her long fingers closed gently around mine, and a shock ran up my arm, as if I had touched something alive with lightning. Together, we walked out of the chamber. That night, long after the moons rose, she came to my room. She did not knock. The door simply opened and she was there. She stood in the doorway for a moment. Then she closed the door behind her and came to sit on the bench across from my bed. She did not speak for a long time. When she did, her voice was soft and small. "Peter." It was the first time she had used my first name. "Yes." "I think," she said, "that I am breaking." "No." "Yes, everything inside me that was trained and built and made for 1,000 years is cracking. I look at you, and it cracks more. I do not know what is on the other side of the crack. It frightens me." She looked at her hands. "I think I am malfunctioning, Peter." I did not laugh. I did not smile. I simply reached out and very gently laid my hand on top of hers. Her fingers trembled. "No, you are not," I whispered. "You are waking up." She closed her eyes. And for a long time, neither of us said another word. The attack came at dawn 3 days later. I was walking in the outer garden with Ussel. The red grass was wet with morning dew. The strange, sweet birds were singing. A ceremonial procession was winding its way through the lower courtyard, long banners of pale blue and gold lifting in the breeze. The queen was at the front, walking slowly with her honor guards on either side. It was meant to be a show of strength, a message to the conclave, a message to the whole empire that the 7th house still stood tall. I saw them before anyone else did. 3 shapes on the high wall above the garden, dark against the pink sky. They were dressed in black robes, not the shining silver of the palace guard. Their faces were hidden. One of them raised something long and thin. "Ussel," I said quietly, "run back to the palace, now." "What? Now?" I did not wait to see if she obeyed. I was already moving. I shouted at the top of my lungs. The honor guard turned, but the first of the black-robed figures had already thrown whatever it was holding. A small silver object shot through the air, turning slowly, catching the morning light. It sailed straight toward the queen. I was closer to her than the guards. I ran. I ran harder than I had ever run in my life. My lungs burned. My bad knee screamed. I did not care. The weight of Claire in my chest had become something hot and bright, a fire that pushed me forward. I reached the queen just as the silver object came down. I shoved her hard. She stumbled to the side. The object hit the ground where she had been standing and burst into a cloud of pale green mist. A breath of that mist touched my face. My skin went cold. My head spun. But I was already pulling her away, dragging her across the courtyard while her guards ran to meet us. Attackers, I gasped. On the wall, 3 of them, poison. Her guards formed a shield around her. More guards rushed toward the wall. The black-robed figures were already moving, leaping from stone to stone, coming down toward the garden. They landed like dancers, quick and silent and sharp. One of them came straight for me. I had no weapon. I had no armor. I had a middle-aged body with a bad knee and lungs that still burned from the poison breath. I had nothing. But I had something they did not expect. I had a reason. Claire's voice was in my ears, as clear as if she were standing beside me. "Peter, you are stronger than you think. You always were. Now be stronger than you think again." The attacker swung a long silver blade at my head. I ducked. My knee screamed. I rolled, caught up a ceremonial spear that had fallen from a guard, and came up with the shaft in my hands. The attacker was fast, but I was fighting for something older and deeper than speed. I drove the butt of the spear into the attacker knee. It buckled. I struck again across the face. The attacker fell. A second one was already on me. This one caught me across the back and threw me into a low stone wall. Pain burst through my ribs. My vision went white for a moment. I tasted blood. I heard Storie cry out. I turned my head. Through the haze, I saw her on the ground. Her guards were down. Poison mist was rising around her. She was trying to rise and could not. The green mist had reached her. Something in me broke open. Something I had not felt since Claire had gone. A red and bright and terrible thing. I got up. I do not remember clearly what came next. I remember the weight of the spear. I remember the face of the second attacker, calm and cold behind a black hood. I remember the third one coming toward the queen with a long knife in hand. I remember thinking as clearly as I had ever thought anything, not her. Not again. Not while I am standing. I put myself between them and her. The spear moved in my hands as if someone else were guiding it. I kept the second attacker at bay long enough for 2 loyal guards to arrive and bring it down. The third one came at me with the knife. My arm went up. The knife sliced my forearm from wrist to elbow. I did not feel it. I drove my shoulder into the attacker chest and pushed it back, until we hit the stone wall together. The attacker head struck the stone. It went still. I fell to my knees beside the queen. Storie. Her eyes fluttered. Her skin had gone pale blue. The lights under her skin were dim and slow. "Peter, you are all right. You are going to be all right." More guards came. They carried her away. Hands lifted me too. I tried to stand and could not. The world turned sideways. I saw Ussel face over mine, her eyes wide with fear. I saw pink sky beyond her. I saw 3 moons beginning to fade. Then nothing. I woke in a room of pale gold light. My arm was wrapped, my chest was wrapped, my head felt heavy. A soft humming machine sat next to my bed. And sitting in a chair beside me, small and quiet and watching me with eyes like violets in the moon, was the queen. She was alive. My voice cracked when I spoke. "How long?" "2 days," she said softly. "You are all right." "I am all right, thanks to you." The attackers, sent by the third house, their queen has denied it. The conclave is in chaos. I tried to sit up. Pain shot through my ribs. I lay back down. She leaned forward. She took my hand in both of hers. Her long fingers were warm. "Peter," she said, "why did you not run?" I closed my eyes, because humans do not. She made a small sound. It took me a moment to realize it was a laugh, a very small one, but a laugh. "You could have been lost." "I know." "You almost were." "I know." "For me." I opened my eyes and met hers. "For you." She looked down. I saw something bright fall onto the back of her hand. Another fell next to it. I realized with a strange little shock that she was crying, that her kind could cry, that no one had probably seen this particular queen cry in 1,000 years. "I do not know what to do with this, Peter." "With what?" "With what is in me. I was not built for this. My kind cut it out. And now it is in me anyway, and I do not know the rules. I do not know the shape of it. I do not know what it wants." I squeezed her hand, as best I could, with my bandaged fingers. "You do not have to know the rules," I whispered. "You only have to feel it and keep walking. That is what we do, one step at a time." She was silent for a long while. Then very softly she said, "Tell me about her again. Tell me about Claire." So I did. I told her about the first time I had seen her, at a small bookshop in a town neither of us lived in. I told her about our first walk. I told her about our wedding, small and cheap and happy. I told her about the apartment with the broken heater where we had spent our first winter, laughing under every blanket we owned. I told her about the hospital room. I told her about the last morning. I told her everything I had never told anyone. When I finished, the light outside had changed. Evening had come. Zeshari lifted my hand very slowly to her cheek. She held it there. I felt the smooth, cool skin of her face. I felt the dampness of her tears. "Peter," she said, "may I ask you a hard question?" "Yes." "Do you think a human heart, once given and once broken, can ever truly choose a second home?" I did not answer at once. I thought about what Claire would have said. I thought about her hand in mine in our last hour and what she had whispered then, her voice so thin I had almost missed it. "Live, Peter. Do not close up. Live. That is what I want. Promise me." I had promised. I had not kept the promise. Not really, not for 6 years. "I do not know," I said honestly. "I think we can. I think it is hard. I think it does not happen quickly. But I think we can." She nodded slowly. "That is a better answer than yes." A soft chime sounded. The door opened. A tall, stern bailiff in deep blue robe stepped in, a messenger of some kind. The queen rose. She did not let go of my hand. "Speak," she said. The messenger voice was cold. "The conclave has met. The third house has been fined, not removed. The others have voted. They demand, in the name of imperial order, that the human Peter Shaw be handed over by dawn tomorrow for formal study and then removal from the empire. They have given you 1 cycle to comply. If you refuse, they will declare the 7th house in open defiance." Zeshari did not move. "Is that all?" "That is all, my queen. You may go." The messenger left. The door slid closed. She stood still for a moment, looking down at me. Her face was calm, but I had come to know her well enough now to see what was beneath the calm. I saw the storm forming. "Peter." "Yes." "I have 1 cycle to give you up or stand alone." "I know." She sat back down. She did not let go of my hand. Her eyes were very bright. "I will not give you up." I tried to smile. I could barely manage it. "I know that too." "They will move against me," she said softly. "Some of my people will turn on me. 1,000 years of order will crack open, all over a man with a photograph in his pocket." "Yes," I whispered. "Peter, I have to ask you one last question, and I need the true answer, not the gentle one." "Ask." She looked at our hands joined on the blanket. Then she looked up at me. "If I do this," she said, "if I stand against the conclave for you, if I tear open my own empire to keep you by me, is what is between us real enough to hold that weight? Or will it break, and leave me alone, and leave my people in ruin for nothing? It was the hardest question I had ever been asked. I thought about Claire, I thought about her voice. Live, Peter, do not close up, live. I thought about the weeks past, the evenings of slow conversation, the photograph in Zeshari's hand, the way she had cried silently for a woman she had never met, the way her fingers had trembled when I had first taken her hand, the way my chest had felt when I had seen her on the ground in the garden and understood that I would not, lose another. I took a slow breath. I met her eyes steadily. Zeshari, I said, I do not know the shape of this any more than you do. I cannot promise you the future. No human can, but I can promise you this. Whatever is between us now is real. It is not a trick of kindness or pity or gratitude. It is real, and if you take my hand in front of your empire tomorrow, I will not let go of yours. Not for 6 other queens, not for 1,000 years, not for anything. She was very still. Then she lifted my hand to her forehead and held it there. It was a gesture I had never seen before. A Valeth gesture, I guessed, an old one. Then at dawn, she said, we will answer them together. She rose and she left me to rest. And for the first time in 6 long years, when I closed my eyes, I did not feel alone. Dawn came slowly over the pink sky. I was dressed in simple gray clothes. My wounds had been sealed with Valeth medicine. My ribs still ached, but I could stand. I could walk. I could do what I needed to do. Usul came to help me. Her eyes were red. Her hands were steady. The whole city is watching, she said softly. The whole empire is watching. Screens in every square. Channels in every home. She has called an imperial gathering. The conclave will be there. The other houses will be there. Every drone and scholar and child of our people will see what happens on that balcony today. And what does she mean to do? Usul swallowed. I do not know exactly, but she sent me with this. She held out a small folded piece of paper. She asked me to read it to you. She said if after reading it you chose to leave through the back gate in a quiet ship, no one would stop you. No one would speak of it. You would be placed far from our space, near a human outpost, alive and free. She said you must know that you have a choice. I took the paper, I unfolded it. There was only one line, written in careful, even letters. I will understand whichever you choose. I stared at the line for a long time. Then I folded the paper again. I put it in the small pocket over my heart, next to where Claire's photograph had once been. Usul. Yes. Take me to her. Usul smiled. It was the first real smile I had ever seen her give. She bowed her head low and she led me out. The hall to the great balcony was long. It was lined with every member of the 7th house that Zeshari could call on. Old Valeth scholars in robes of silver, younger ones in pale blue, warriors, healers, artists. They stood in 2 long rows. As I walked between them, not one of them spoke, but each of them, one by one, placed a hand over their own chest as I passed. I did not know their customs well enough to know what that meant, but I felt the weight of it. I understood it anyway. At the end of the hall, the doors to the balcony stood open. Light poured through. Zeshari stood with her back to me, framed in the pink and gold of the morning. Her robes were white today, not silver, not blue, white. I had read enough by now to know what white meant in her culture. It was the color of a vow that could not be undone. I walked out to stand beside her. The balcony looked over a vast open square. The square was full. Tens of thousands of her people filled the stone below. Screens floated in the air above the crowd, each one showing our faces in close view. I knew, somewhere deeper than sight, that the other queens were watching too, from their own palaces, from their thrones of green and red and silver. She did not look at me. She did not need to. Are you ready, Peter? Yes. Then let us begin. She raised her hands. The crowd fell silent. The silence spread like a wave. Somewhere far off, a single bird sang and then stopped. Zeshari's voice rang out, carried by the palace to every corner of the empire. People of the 7th house, queens of the other 6, Citizens of the Imperium, hear me. A long pause. For 1,000 years, I have sat upon a throne that was built on a lie. A gasp went through the crowd. We were told long ago that our greatness rested on our coldness, that our order came from our emptiness, that we were strong because we had cut the one thing out of ourselves that could make us weak. We were told this so often and for so long that we forgot to ask whether it was true. She let the words settle. I have found in recent days a human man. The screens showed my face. I kept my eyes forward. I did not move. He is not a warrior of fleets. He is not a king of worlds. He is a man with a photograph. A man who has loved one woman and lost her and carried her inside him for 6 years. He is, by the rules of our old science, defective, broken, weak. And yet he stood between me and a poisoned blade 2 days ago. He stood not because he had a duty to me, for he did not. Not because he had an oath to me, for he had none. He stood because in his chest there is a fire that our scientists burned out of us, and that fire will not let him stand aside when another he cares for is in danger. She turned to me now. Her violet eyes were steady. I tell you openly before you all, this fire is in me now. The crowd did not speak. The silence was almost painful. And I tell you something harder. I am not sorry for it. I am not afraid of it. I will not cut it out. I will not let my conclave cut it out. If this is a sickness, then our great empire has been healthy for 1,000 years, and our hearts have been quiet for just as long, and I would rather be sick and alive than healthy and quiet. She reached for my hand. I gave it to her. I call upon the old covenant, she said. The bond of singular devotion as it was written before the change. It was not destroyed. It was only forbidden. I name this human Peter Shaw as my chosen, not my drone, not my consort, my one. By ancient right, as queen of the 7th house, I join my life to his openly and before you all. The roar that went up from the crowd was not one sound. It was many. Some were shouts of joy. Some were cries of anger. Some were cries of fear. I saw Valeth far below falling to their knees and weeping. I saw others shaking their fists. I saw young ones, no taller than my waist, looking up at their parents with huge, confused eyes. On the floating screens above the crowd, I saw the other 6 queens. 3 of them rose from their thrones in fury. 2 of them sat quietly as if they had expected this. One, the silver one, looked down at her own hands and did not lift her eyes. Then the screens went dark. The transmission was cut. Zeshari turned to me. Her face was pale but calm. It has begun. The next days were long and hard. A split inside the empire is not a thing I can easily describe. It did not look like the wars my people fight. The Valeth did not drop heavy fire. They did not level cities. They moved in careful, slow steps, cutting trade lines, calling back loyal drones from distant moons, closing gates between worlds. 3 of the 6 houses declared Zeshari deposed. 2 stood with her. The Silver Queen, to my surprise, sent a single message that said simply, I will watch. I will not move against you. It was not enough, but it was not nothing. I was no longer a prisoner. I was no longer a guest. I was something stranger. I was her mate, as the Valeth of the 7th house now named me, her partner, her chosen. I could not fight their quarrel for them. I did not know their tools. I did not know their ships, but I could do other things. I walked among her people each day. I spoke with old scholars and young drones. I told them about my world. I told them about Claire. I told them about ordinary human lives. I did not tell them that we were better than them. I told them that we were simply different, and that difference was not a danger, and that their queen had not lost her mind for choosing to see it. Something strange began to happen. Young Valeth, all over the 7th house, began to write. They wrote poems first, short, clumsy poems, but they wrote them. Then they wrote songs. Their music shifted after 1,000 years of sameness. New notes appeared, new rhythms. Their art changed. A young sculptor in the lower city made a statue of 2 hands holding each other, one Valeth and one human, and copies of it began to spread to other towns. Ussel wept the first time she saw one. She came to my room with a small wooden version of it in her hand, and she could not speak for a long time. My great-grandmother, she whispered at last, would have made this. The standoff went on. Messages flew between houses. There were hard days. There were days when Zeshari came back to our shared chambers and sat on the floor with her face in her hands and did not speak for hours. On those days, I would sit next to her. I would not say anything either. I would simply be there. Sometimes I would reach out and hold her long fingers in mine. Sometimes that was enough. Slowly, over many cycles, the split began to close. The third house, the one that had sent the attackers, was the first to fall. Its queen was removed by her own people when they learned she had broken the old peace with poison. The fifth house followed. Its young Valeth had read too many new poems. They would not stand for the old cold ways anymore. The second house agreed to a truce. The fourth, seeing the tide, followed soon after. The Silver Queen, the one who had watched, finally spoke. She said only, "The empire is changing. I will change with it." Only the sixth house stood firm, and the sixth house was weak without the others. In the end, there was no great final clash. There was a slow, quiet settling, like snow after a long storm. On a cool evening, many months after that dawn on the balcony, Zeshari and I stood together on a high terrace of the palace. The sea below was calm. The 3 moons were rising. Soft music came from somewhere in the city, a new kind of music, with notes in it I had never heard before. She was quiet for a long time. "Peter." "Yes." "I have been thinking." I waited. "When we began," she said, "I asked you a question. Do you remember it?" "I remember." "I asked whether humans bond for life." "Yes." She turned to me. Her violet eyes searched my face. The blue lights under her skin moved slowly and warmly, like a calm river. "I have an answer now," she said. "I think I finally understand." "Tell me." She lifted my hand in both of hers. She held it as if it were something very small and very precious. "You do not bond for life, Peter Shaw." I smiled a little. "No. No, you bond for something longer." I felt the old weight in my chest again, but it had shifted. It was not only Claire anymore. Claire was still there, warm and steady where she had always been. But beside her, not pushing her away, was something new, something equally warm, something equally real. I thought of Claire's last words. "Live, Peter, do not close up, live." I had finally started to keep that promise. "Yes," I said softly, "we bond for keeps." She repeated it slowly, tasting the words. "For keeps. For keeps." We stood in silence for a while. The moons climbed higher. Below, the lights of the city were coming on one by one. "Peter," she said, "there is one more thing." "What?" "The empire is not yet healed. Many of my people are still frightened. They do not know what to do with the new feelings that wake in them. They have no teachers, they have no guides. Your people, I am told, have 1,000 songs and 1,000 books about love, about grief, about staying, about leaving, about beginnings and endings and everything in between." She looked down at me. "I have asked my scholars to open our empire to your kind, carefully, slowly, not as soldiers, as teachers, as artists, as neighbors. Your species will come to learn from us and ours will come to learn from you. It will take many cycles. It may take many long lives, but I mean it to happen." I stared at her. "You mean to open a border?" "I mean to open a hand," she said. "There has been enough of the other kind." I thought of all the worlds my people had lost. I thought of all the families broken on both sides. I thought of the slow, hard work of healing. I thought of Ussel, reading her great-grandmother writings by candlelight, wondering what love was. I thought of a young sculptor shaping 2 hands in wood. I thought of the new music rising across the city. I thought of Claire, and I was sure somehow that she would have smiled. "I will help," I said quietly, "in any way I can." "I know you will." I rested my head gently against her shoulder. She folded her long arms around me. Below us, the new city breathed. Somewhere, an old Valeth was teaching a child a song with new notes in it. Somewhere, A human letter carrier was being met at a space station for the first time by a silver-skinned host who greeted him in careful, nervous English. Somewhere, a young drone was reading a poem about walking under a white tree. Somewhere, a human mother was showing a Valith scholar a photograph of her son and saying, "This is him. This is who he was." The empire was not the same. It would never be the same. That, I was beginning to learn, was not a tragedy. That was how healing looked. "Peter." "Yes." "I am glad my soldiers found you." I smiled. My eyes were wet. I did not try to hide it. "I am glad they did too." The moons rose higher. The sea turned to silver, and the queen of the Valith Imperium stood with a broken, stubborn, mendied human man on a high terrace of a changing world, and her long fingers stayed laced through his as if she meant truly to keep them there. "For keeps."